we will be talking about college life versus non-college life. I am currently in college. I go to college in Marin, and Santi does not go to college, and she did not go to college. She did go, but she had dropped out, and we're both going to give different perspectives and experiences on why we both chose to go these different ways. And going to college is always an option. Not going to college is always an option. You can always do a bunch of things when not going to college and going to college. So it all depends on yourself. So we want to give our perspective since our lifestyles are a little different, and also with age it's a little different as well. But yeah, and before we get started, we always start with our icebreaker, and my icebreaker for today is, what is something that you've learned about yourself in the past 3 months?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, in the past 3 months,
Yes.
something I've learned about myself is I am very gullible.
Gullible. Why?
Because I've noticed that at times, and something that my family has expressed to me, and it's, there could be something I really want, but if someone else says, I don't want to do that because of this, I will say okay. And which is good, but it also doesn't allow me to speak up for myself. And so I'm very gullible.
I feel like the same.
Yeah, so that's something that I've been learning more about myself in the past 3 months. And I've realized that there's a lot of things that I want to do, but because I don't speak up at times, I don't get to experience those things. So a message to everyone, make sure you speak up too. It's okay to agree with everyone, but also to speak up.
I feel like I'm the same way. I'm like, you mentioned this a little before we started. You're like, when people talk to me, I'm always like, yeah, okay. And I feel like I'm the same way. And I was gonna say, I thought gullible kind of meant also like being easily fooled in a way. Is that?
Yeah,
I feel like people always like tell me, oh, you're so gullible. Like someone would like be like joking with me, but like be so serious with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, really? And then like,
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
like, you're so
that is so I think it's two things then.
Yeah,
The
I was
actual
like-
definition of being gullible, which is easily persuaded to do things.
Yeah.
That's something that I would consider myself very often doing. And yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I feel the same. I'm really gullible, and I probably should work on that. For me, I would say that in the past 3 months, I have learned that I, in a way, don't give myself enough credit in certain things, and I tend to, I don't know what's the right word, but I tend to look at things and feel like I'm not good enough to do it, or like I won't be able to do it, or feel like, oh, I'm not smart enough to do it, especially because of school now. And I've like learned that I do that a lot often, and my boyfriend has kind of like showed me and like made me realize that I do that. And he always tells me like, you can do that, and he always tells me like, basically, don't say that you can't, because then you won't, or like you won't be able to do it. Does that make sense? I'm like not gonna explain, but
No, it makes sense. And it happens often. And I'm glad that you're noticing that, because one of the things that we humans we are our biggest critic. Like,
exactly.
even if you're very successful to the eyes of others, in your eyes, you can be saying, I'm not doing enough.
I feel that exact way.
So I think that's also a good thing to everyone to know, that being able to give yourself credit when it's needed is important. And also, you just need to have a balance between being like, where can I improve? What can I do better? Of course, we all need that. But also saying, hey, I've done this and I'm proud of myself. We often like a validation from other people, but the biggest one we need is ourselves.
Yeah.
Because once you have it, I mean, you can throw yourself in a big challenge, but if you believe in yourself, that confidence that you have makes things a lot more an easier path than if you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like for me, I've like so far kind of just started to realize that in a way, and I've always been like if I is something like where school wise, like I'd be like, oh, I can't do it. And like in a way, I would like kind of lean myself into not doing it by like thinking I can't do it, so why do it? So then I end up not doing it, like a homework assignment. I'm like, like I don't understand it, so might as well not do it. So then I don't do it. But then now I've realized that I should just literally just ask for help. And yeah, and I feel like that's something I so am working on now. But I'm glad that I've realized it a lot more, because not just with school, with like other things in my life, I like realized that I do that a lot. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna dive into the actual conversation with our college life. Before we start talking about our lifestyles now, I want to bring up more of Santi's high school experience, my high school experience, what led us to college, and then what has caused us to be here now, basically. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of background. I'm a first gen, so going to school has been a lot on my own. As much as my parents wanted to support me, they don't and didn't understand the education system here, meaning like the GPAs, all of that was very new. I know my family had to take classes to understand what a GPA is and the process to go to college. They definitely wanted to learn, but ultimately it was all on my shoulders because I had to figure it out on my own, kind of pave my own path. So that allowed me to have and be involved in certain programs, and a couple of them I've talked about it here on the show before. It's Summer Search, Avid, and Students Rising Above. Those are programs that I was in. Some that the only one I'm still currently in is Summer Search, but every other one, they were a brief period. And so for me, it's often in my household, it was said, and even in school, college was the only path for success. And as I kind of learned more about myself, there were things that didn't really align with college. But I also understood that college could bring and open a lot of doors. And what I ended up doing is I wanted to make sure that in my junior and senior year, I had the option to go to college, and not because I couldn't go to college, which are two different things. So meaning that I had to work hard, study, get good grades in order for me to apply and go to college. And then if I get the acceptance letters, ultimately have the choice to say, I don't want to go to college, versus saying, I couldn't go to college, which are two different things. And in my high school experience with Avid, big props to Avid, helped me a lot with tutoring, getting good grades, and making my path to apply to college available. I ended up applying to about 10 colleges, UC, CSUs, privates. Got in them. I think got waitlisted in Santa Cruz. But everything else I got in, and I ultimately decided that I wanted to go to College of Marin instead of committing to a 4-year, because I wasn't confident in my decision to go to college when pandemic hit. And after the pandemic hit, I tried to go back, did the online classes for a little bit, and then ultimately decided it's not for me. And I chose a different path. That's kind of my experience. Questions?
Yes. So how long did you go to college for? A semester or?
So when I was a junior and a senior, if I'm correct, I did take College of Marin classes.
Oh, when you were in high school.
I was in high school. So I did that. And then after I did a semester, and then the pandemic hit. And then I went back. So technically I did like almost 2 semesters, I would say.
2 semesters?
Almost 2 semesters. But in total, I think it was like over a year.
Was College of Marin, when the pandemic hit, all online as well?
It was all online, except when I went back on my second time, I did have one class that was hybrid, and that was an art class. And so we were on Zoom at times because it was split into cohorts. So our classes was divided into like 2, and half of the class would go on one day, the other half would go on the other day because of COVID restrictions. I definitely enjoyed the art class. But after, what really triggered me to say I don't want to do this anymore was my math. I think it was statistics.
I'm taking that right now.
And the reason why I really didn't like it was because it was in front of a professor, and I'm a really hands-on learner. So I like to have a professor, and if I don't get something, I can ask a question after or in person. But that course itself was, or that class, it was literally all online. And just on Mondays, we would meet, and it was open discussion to ask questions to the professor. But I liked literally having someone what I can see. So that was the triggering moment for me to say it's not for me anymore.
Wait, you mentioned that you went back again. What did you just mean from high school and then when you were in college?
So after that's actually, my timeline might be wrong. I went, pandemic hit, I stopped, and then I took a break, and then I went back, and that's where I took the art class, and I just took 2 classes, statistics and art.
So like after kind of like a year went by, that's when you went back again.
Yeah, like a year or so, yeah. Because when college started, it was all online because it was like mid-pandemic. I graduated from high school mid-pandemic, like early stages of the pandemic. I finished my senior year, lockdown, and even college when it was lockdown. And then, so it was a different experience, definitely.
Would you ever consider going back now that like there's no hybrid? It might be different. You might experience it differently.
You know, that has come up a lot, but again, the more I lean on the path that I took, the more I feel confident about the decision I took. And now I'm an advocate for people who have doubts of going to college. And I always say, hey, I thought college was I thought there was only 2 options. It was go to college, be successful. Well, I didn't think. That's what people told me.
Yeah.
There's only one way to be really successful. It's go to college, get a degree, and then you can find a good job because you have a degree. But once I didn't do that, I realized that there were so many other paths that you can take, that college wasn't the only one that you could do and be successful. As long as you have the drive, the commitment, and the passion to succeed and understand that it's a very rocky road, college as well, then you'll be fine. As long as you understand that. And so that's what I tell people. Sometimes they feel like a failure because they didn't go to college.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we're told all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't go to college, you're not considered.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people that I know, like more kind of like in the Hispanic community, like if there's someone in my family, or there are a few people in my family that dropped out of college, like our family members consider them as like, oh, they're no good. Like, why would they do that? Like, our parents came here for them to go to college. And that kind of leads me to my other question. What did your parents think of you dropping out and deciding not to go to college? And like, did they think, as like many others think, like college is the only way?
Well, I'm very grateful that they were actually on board with my decision. And here's the reason why. My parents did immigrate here to the US when they were very young, and they didn't speak English and a little bit of Spanish because we have our native language. And they basically had that drive and said, we want to, we came here for a future, for our kids, for ourselves. So they started learning English, and they started their entrepreneurship has always been there. And so they started their own business. They kept it growing until today. And that is what basically allowed them to see that, hey, I am very successful without going to college. So if you don't want to go to college, that's totally fine. As long as you are working, you continue to educating yourself, and I'll talk more about that later. What that looks like. And so you continue educating yourself, and you have a dream, and that you're working for it. And if you have that and you have the drive, you're going to be okay. And so it definitely was a hard decision for me. I remember I was crying because I felt like I was letting them down because, like you said, it's your parents came here so you could have a better life. And so I was struggling with that feeling of, I'm going to let my parents down because I didn't go to college. And I knew that's a dream of my mom, that her kids can go to college. But when she saw me and she expressed, whatever you do, I know you will be successful. If you go to college, I'm on board. If you don't go to college, I'm on board. As long as you know what you want and you work for it. And the other thing that she made very, very clear, she said, that you need to do things for you and not for anybody else. So if this is my dream for you, it doesn't mean it's your dream. Like, you have the right to dream on your own. So if your dream is not to go to college, but it's mine, it's okay if you don't want to go, because it's not your dream. And so that kind of allowed me to feel a little bit of a, but it's really hard to, a lot of parents and a lot of family members might not see that, because ultimately what our society has said is going to college is the road to success. But there's a lot of people who go to college and end up having a different lifestyle than someone who doesn't go to college. So it really just depends on where your mindset is and what you want to do. Yeah. What about you? What kind of, because I know you started college very early. So what made you choose to go?
Well, okay, so I've mentioned this before. I graduated high school as a junior, and I'm going into nursing, but at College Marin, I'm doing medical assisting, and I actually started that when I was in high school. So that spark to going into the medical field came from high school, and it came from my college counselor. He was the one who had suggested for me to do classes at College Marin while being in high school.
Oh, so his name.
Yeah. And so he had we were like looking through College Marin, because I was like, I had no clue like what I wanted to do, and I'm like, I don't really know. And then I was thinking, like, I wasn't really sure what many of the majors were, like what they're about, like what I can do out of like biology, psychology, and he would explain to me like what each major does and what like most outcomes look like, or like what jobs you can obtain from them. And so I've always loved to help others and to just like, just help others. And I know there's like a million other different routes that you could go besides from medical field. But whenever I like think about like, why am I going into the medical field? I always think of like, because I want to help others, and because I find medicine really fascinating, the way that like everything comes together and you give someone something, it helps cure them, it helps take away their pain. I feel like it's really interesting, and it kind of like just lures me in. That makes sense? Yeah. So it kind of came from that. And then in high school, so I'd taken one class, and then I honestly just wasn't really sure if that's something that I wanted to do. So my college counselor said to take one class, and it was just like an intro class to medical assisting, and they just covered like the topics on like what you do. And medical assistants aren't like nurses or anything. They kind of like help the nurses in a way. They help prep everything for the nurses. So you were working like alongside with nurses. So it kind of made me feel like I should go this route, just because it's only a 2-year program, and I'm going to be done this spring. And I would be able to see if like I would be able to work with a nurse to see if that's exactly what I want to do. And if it's not something that I want to do, I can I'm 18 and this is my second year in college, so I don't feel too like behind if I end up wanting to switch. But I honestly do not think I will switch, because I already really like what I'm doing. Everything excites me, and like wanting to go to like our clinicals, because in medical assisting we have clinicals that we go to. So
what are clinicals?
Basically we have like clinical lectures, which is what we talk about, like procedures basically, and then we have labs where we perform things like taking blood pressure, taking vital signs, and giving injections, and then we had like a clinical class that was like a lot to do with like babies and newborns, how to like assess them and everything. So all of that like really fascinates me. So I don't think I'm going to be changing my major at all. And I don't really see myself outside of the medical field in any way. The only thing that like makes me feel like I might not go into it is just like the schoolwork, because nursing can be very what is it, like tedious and like very what is it, I don't know what's the right word, but it's like very hands-on. You have to be like really there, and I'm not even in a nursing program yet, but I'm doing medical assisting, and those classes now are like pretty hard, and it's a little like it, some of those classes relate to nursing classes, but it's a lot more basics than like you would learn in nursing school. And then I'm doing my prerequisites at ComEd too, and then I'll be transferring over to a different school. I don't know what school I want to go to yet for nursing, but yeah.
What are options that you are looking into?
A few options. I want to go to UCLA. That would be like my top choice. And
Why UCLA?
just because they have their own like hospital. Annalee is like telling me to keep going for it, and I kind of don't want to. The only reason why I don't want to is just because they all the UCs require like a lot more prerequisites for you to get in, which is obviously they're UCs. So it would require me to take like maybe like a semester or like a year longer at College of Marin to fulfill those requirements that they ask for.
Okay.
So that's like another thing. But then like if I go to CSU, they don't require those extra requirements, so I would be able to transfer earlier. So,
And where would you be able to transfer earlier if it's not UCLA?
well, I also want to go to either like Long Beach or Fullerton.
Where is Fullerton?
It's near Long Beach, like not too
okay.
far from Long Beach.
So it's still in LA.
Yeah, it's still in LA. So those are my choices, and also Irvine is a choice. And actually, a cool thing from that I kind of learned from recent. I've always known that COM had this, but like I kind of didn't really know too much about it. But when my friends mentioned to me TAG at College of Marin, it's like I forgot what it stands for, but it's basically like a guaranteed acceptance to a UC. Like you tag a school, meaning that like you like basically kind of apply for it, and they either accept it or deny it, and you are tagged to them, and like no matter what, you are guaranteed a spot to their to that school. Okay. But like you don't have to stick to it. Like you can apply to a lot of other schools, but you have that school kind of just like as a backup.
Oh, cool.
And Irvine is an option, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna tag Irvine.
And Irvine is where?
It's in SoCal as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like I think like a little more, not like directly down there, but it's like in that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I see two different things.
What do you see?
What?
I said, what do you see?
Like,
or what'd you say?
I said there are two different paths, which are equally. I think also with your case, and it happens to a lot of people, and I had a lot of friends like that too, which is what made me kind of struggle with making my decision a lot earlier. And it's like nursing, medical, and law, and you really need to go to college for that.
Yeah.
Because it requires a lot of practice. I mean, a nurse, a doctor, you want them to have that practice because they're going to be operating on people, right? They're going to be practicing and doing things on people, and you need to be very, very knowledgeable for that, or else it's really life or death at times.
Yeah.
Law, exactly. Law's the same thing, not necessarily life or death. Well, actually, if you're a lawyer, you get penalty.
Yeah. You
but
get death row or something.
Yeah. So, but it requires a lot more of being knowledgeable. And my interest was a lot into arts. And so for me, I just didn't get as the need or the excitement to go the way that a lot of my peers are. But let me see.
But like, I just want to mention that like going into like medical field, lawyers, it's not like the only option. Like a lot of people don't find that as interesting or fascinating, which is like totally fine. But I feel like those are like really the only fields that like really have a purpose for actually going to school for.
That's what I was leaning towards. It's because, for example, my interest in high school was photography, videography, and even graphic design. And yes, you can go to school and they'll teach you and show you and get you more knowledgeable on skills, how to use the software. But the creativity part is something that really comes within you. You can be very knowledgeable, but if you're not, that creativity doesn't come out from within, it's something that you can't be taught. So in my case, that was something that really had a huge impact on the decision making. It was that it was more creativity wise. And yeah, that's the main thing.
So,
But,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So when you had decided to fully drop out of college, you knew what you wanted to do. And was that photography?
Not necessarily, but I knew I wanted to be into the arts. And so my best advice that I could give anyone who is in college, who is not in college, is to get involved in different things. We tend to believe that at a certain age, like in your early 20s, you should have things figured out. And you need to stick to it. For example, you go into let's say medical school, and you have to stick with it and ride it all the way until you graduate. Actually, don't. You can switch your major, and sometimes it happens, and it's not that you failed or you're not good enough to do something. It's you don't know what you like, maybe, or you are trying to figure and try new things out, and that's why volunteering, taking internships is super important at a very young age, because it allows you, for example, if you have an interest in the medical field, take an internship that's involved in the medical field. And see how it is. You experience it real time, and maybe you're like, that is not something I want to do. And that way you don't have to go through something to realize that you don't like it, right? Or you take a photography class. You didn't know things about it, but you end up liking it. And you end up saying, oh, this is something I want to do and I see myself doing. So the biggest advice is doing that. Trying things, even if you think you don't like it, go and experience it, because you never know where that can lead you. And that's exactly what I did. And it's, I always been thrown like, can you do this? Can you do this? And I've always said yes. Maybe sometimes I knew things about it, maybe I didn't. But the whole point was for me just to get out there and put myself in places where I can grow and learn. That's what happened with MCM. I started in Presente. That was really all of a sudden. And we bring up that a lot because that's really what Presente led to Tay Radio, the work that I do here at MCM, and the work that I do out of MCM. I never imagined myself being and designing like graphic works and marketing. That isn't something that I necessarily saw myself doing, but it led to being in the field that I'm doing right now. And do I enjoy it? I do. I love the photography work that I do, the videography, the graphic design stuff, all the art stuff that I'm around with. But that would have never happened if I just stuck to one thing. I really just put myself out there and said, okay, I'm going to try this. And there were things I liked and didn't like. So that's my biggest advice. Just try everything. That's the whole point of being young, in your early 20s, is to try things.
I can relate to that. I have tried things. I've actually tried photography, and I don't think I've tried photography and the creative side with drawing and I used to teach myself watch videos on how to draw, and I've realized that arts is not for me. I'm not necessarily good at it, but it's not something that I'm I want to go into or anything, and it's different for everyone. As you mentioned, try different things and all. Oh wait, I wanted to also say I've tried photography and like athletics and stuff like that. And one thing that I normally try to tell people that are still in high school that I know, and there's a lot of people that are undecisive with their majors or don't know, and it's more just if you think you want to go into psychology, if you think you want to go into business, take one of those classes that are offered. See if you like the idea of it, the idea of how that job will be like a lot of the intro classes like tell you this is what you're gonna do in this field, these are the options for the field, and you get to see kind of like a perspective of it, or like either get an internship. But if you're going to college, just take one of those classes, see if it's interesting. And if you can't necessarily find something that you're interested in, maybe that's not a way for you to go. Maybe there's something else out there that doesn't involve you going to college. And for example, I know where I work, there's this woman that works there. She's a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant. And she is from Jamaica, and she came here to the United States, and she didn't know what she wanted to do. And then someone had told her about being a CNA, and she wasn't really sure about doing it. And so she does it now, and she's a CNA, but she has always liked money and like numbers and everything. And she thought that she might like being a CNA, but she told me that she does not, and she is going to plan on quitting soon, and she wants to go into finance and try to find somewhere that she can go to equip like that knowledge and stuff. So it's never a bad thing to try anything and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And having the mindset of, oh, I failed because I dropped out, or I failed because I didn't continue with this. Not true. There are different paths you can take, and also realizing something you might have liked the idea of it, but really being in the present moment and experiencing those things might change your mind.
Yeah.
Or you could be thinking, oh, I want to be a nurse. That's what really is I'm aspired to. You take a medical course or something around the same areas, maybe something sparks and you want to be a doctor instead. Or a surgeon, like different type of areas within that field that you wouldn't know. And it's quite interesting to find out like, oh, I didn't know that there was this part of this branch that I liked, and that's where I want to go. And which is something that we don't talk about often.
I feel like another thing that's not talked about within like college students a lot is switching majors, or like being so undecisive. Like I know a few people that have been like switching between majors, and they feel really behind, that they're not really at the place that where they need to be. Or I know people who, like in my classes, like if you go to like a community college, or I don't know how it is in every college, but I'm just saying community college because like that's where I go. You go into a classroom, there are people that are still in their teenage years. There are people in their 20s, 40s, 50s, and so on. There's like people in my classes that look like they're in their 60s. And I sometimes like have talked to a few, and I know one of them where she had gone to nursing school, but she had dropped out of it because she felt too overwhelmed with it. And she's now in her 40s, and she's doing medical assisting now because she wants to start over again with college. And she like loves her life. She's a nanny. And so she's told me, she's like, I used to feel like I wasn't in the right place, but she just had to like figure out her life and how to balance everything. So she went back at it, and I feel like she kind of like is a good I'm not really good at explaining, but she's a good example for me on how to, like, even if you feel behind, you're not behind, because there's a bunch of people that like might feel the same way. They're in similar circumstances and everything like that.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Did you understand?
Yeah, no, I did. I did.
Okay.
And it's a big decision too.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you were in the medical field and switching to another major. It can be very, oh man, the hard work that I've been doing. But
I'd
also at the end of the day, when you graduate, is it really in a field that you're really into?
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
is that
Yeah.
something you like?
Yeah, I saw, or like I watched a video and I read something where it was like just because, okay, pretend like you're going through your major, you're like halfway through it, and then you realize I don't like this major, but you think, oh my gosh, but like I've done all of these, like I just need to go through with it and just live with it. But like, why would you want to live with that if that's going to be your career for the rest of your life? So might as well just change it. But a lot of people are like scared to make that change because they feel like they're going to be even more behind. But like, wouldn't you rather be happy in your career than just like taking like an extra 2 more years and then having the rest of your life feel better. So
Yeah, no, that's another good point, because that happens in college, and it also happens with choosing not to go. Definitely that kind of, for example, I already started college, and there's something I've learned from my mom. It's you start something, you finish. But you also need to consider the long run. It's easy to stay in the present and think, oh, this is what I have to do. But if you think and plan out your future, you really start seeing, okay, what's actually more beneficial. And that's why, you know, going out there and putting yourself out there into different experiences is totally fine. And you don't need to have your whole life figured out at your early 20s. That's not something, realistically speaking. It's good that you're thinking about, what am I doing? How can I improve? That's always good, rather than saying whatever and you just don't care. So it's there's two different things. And for those, for example, who also have, in many cases, they have a hobby, it's also good to explore more about the hobby and how you can turn that into a business, or how can that hobby, if you really like it, do you see yourself doing it more often? Can that hobby turn into something that you're actually full-time in, or not, or just finding things that can really help out. But one thing I will want to make clear is the education part. Going to college is a type of education, but education should continue on after you graduate college. And what do I mean by that? We always have to stay educated about a skill. For example, communications, how to talk to people, how to work with your personality and others, because something that we will never stop doing is working with people. So you need to develop that skill to communicate better. And how do you communicate and take what others say without taking it personal, right? That's something that can, it's a very thin line. And also finances. Something that we are not taught in school is finances. And that's also something that we're going to deal with for the rest of our lives, our finance. And so keeping your education on that. I always recommend those three things. Learning how to work with people, educating yourself on that, finances, businesses, and personal growth. And the reason behind that is because whether you're an actor, a singer, or a doctor, at one point you will fall into contracts and reading numbers. And so if you have the basics of finances, you can read your own contract and you can go over it. And it's easier for you to understand things and not let people step over you or take advantage of you. And also for you to, you know, in case you start your own business or firm, you need to know how, you know, things work. You might hire someone, but it's also good for you to know what's being done. Yeah. And so education doesn't necessarily mean college is what we surround education based on. But you really, after college, you need to continue your education. Even if you are, let's say in my case, if I would have graduated as a graphic designer, yeah, I graduated, but you know, I need to still continue my skill development because things
keeping
evolve.
up with like current content.
Exactly, yeah. Things evolve, and so that's something that education should always be something that you're constantly working on in different areas of your life. So I want to make that clear that not going to college does not mean not going to or having an education at all.
Yeah, I really agree. I agree with that a lot, especially with the finance part. We are not taught that unless we choose to take a course on it. But yeah, I also wanted to go over in the concept of you do graphic designing for MCM. I kind of want to talk about a little differences between your lifestyle and my lifestyle as a college student and as a non-college student. But I feel like it might be just a little different now that you're 21. So. And then I'm 18, so it's like a little different, but like it would be kind of like if you were in college right now. Would you still be in college?
I would. I think Javier graduated at 22. I think.
Okay.
So around, I would still be in.
You still be okay.
Yeah, for It's 4 years, so 20.
He graduated in 2021. Yeah.
So how old is he?
How old are you?
22?
22, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. So well, I'm going to be 22 next week, so
Okay.
near the graduation age.
Near. Okay. Okay, so you want to go over what is like a basic day-to-day life or that you have?
Well, let me tell you something that I'm very grateful and fortunate about the lifestyle that I currently have and the schedule I have. And it's something that didn't just happen accidentally. It's something that I always dreamed of. And my thing was, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just had this in my head. Okay, if I don't go to college, I am not gonna do a starter job. So a starter job is like Safeway, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, or a waiter or a cashier. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're doing that, like we got to pay bills. Absolutely, somehow we got to pay bills. So usually that's the common thing, and even college students, that's the work that they go into more commonly. So in my case, I said it's something that I cannot and won't accept for me. It was a challenge that I had for myself, and I always stated I want to be able to use my computer to work. That was something that I had in my head, and that's what happened now, and it is happening. My family, like I said earlier, they are entrepreneurs. They have their own businesses, and that allowed me to be a part of the business. So I help run those businesses, and I work from home. And all I need is my computer, and I do number works, and I do design for the businesses, media for the businesses. So that's kind of my work. And for MCM, part of it is the hosting for Tay and assisting for the production for the Spanish show in MCM. And I'm also the social media coordinator for MCM. With that context, what usually happens is I wake up, I work out, I take a shower, and then have breakfast, etc. And then I literally I have a desk in my home. I open my computer and I sit and I work. That's how it works. And then when it's lunchtime, I take a break. I'll cook something for me because I'm at home. I don't need to buy anything. I'll cook. And then I'll go back to work. And then it's sometimes 5 or something. I give myself a break. And then it's, dinner time, cleaning up time. And then I have some extra time, whether it's to do the laundry or, organizing and cleaning is something that I have. And that's really kind of how my schedule looks like, except Wednesdays. Wednesdays, I choose to be here after the show. On Wednesdays, I come here and do the show for the Spanish show. I stay here to meet with people, and really all I need to work is my phone and my computer. It has its pros and cons. A pro is I'm not physically working, but my brain is constantly thinking, and it can get very exhausting. I can have a lot of headaches because my mind is always numbers, design, this and that. So it can be overwhelming at times. The other thing is the social life is not so great, meaning I talk with Javier and with you and Annalie and Chris and everyone here at MCM, but that's really the bubble, or clients when it comes to our family business. I'm talking with clients, but it's not really a social life that I would say that's something that is a con, I would say. But definitely, I can take my computer to go work at a coffee shop. I can sit there and work. Or I can go to the park and work. As long as I have Wi-Fi and my computer, that's really how I can work. So that's something that I've always dreamed of, and I'm very grateful that I can do that. But that's just really how my life is.
What do you do on your computer? Like, what are the things that you do?
So I edit photos, videos. I design graphics for promotional stuff. And then, for example, that's for MCM in general. And I also do that with the businesses. And the other thing that I do with the businesses with my parents is like I am emailing clients. Clients call me and tell me, hey, can I book something? And I do a lot of the taxes stuff with the businesses. meaning quarterly reports and managing what we spend on. And so, for example, the end of the year taxes, like how much the business makes, I look at all of that. I make all the files and stuff. Like, this is how much we spent. This is how much we paid our employees. This is how much we made. These are our bills or expenses. That is the work that I do. And marketing in general for our businesses. So it's a lot of things that I do on my computer. And that's why I said there's a lot of pros and cons with it. Like I said, the cons for me is I can be mentally drained. That is something that I have to remember to give myself breaks and pauses because I'm sitting down for long periods of time and my brain is constantly thinking. Yeah. So it's not a lot of physical work, but it's a lot of mental work.
I feel like I like see you talking about your work style. I'm like a lot different. I would not want to work with my computer or like be at a desk or something. For me, like my job now, or one of my jobs is kind of like I'm at a desk and I get like so tired and like bored. And it's like, even if I'm on my computer and like doing my own things, like I still get bored of it because I feel like I'm doing like homework or something. And I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't want that personally as a job. That's why kind of nurses,
Right.
That's why kind of like it's like another reason why I'm going into nursing is because they're really like hands-on. They're always doing something. They're active. They're moving around. Like probably for like at times they're like just charting and everything and stuff like that. But yeah, and
we're very different. I'll say this though. I spent most of my time sitting, but when I need to, and a lot of part of what I need to be sitting down for is work. So that's like photography and videography. I need to get up and do that, which I think is what I enjoy the most is the actual shooting part, the actual being present and recording stuff. That really excites me and gets me happy. The editing part, and it's very draining. But again, it's just, I think for me, what I really love, it's the flexibility of being able to have options of where I can work and where
I like that. I like that how you said that. I would want that too, but it's like I just can't like sit. I get really distracted too. I can't just
it happens a lot to people. Like I totally understand where you're coming from because that is my mom. My mom, she cannot do the work that I do because she gets bored very easy. And she doesn't feel like she's working. And it's just her being is actually being physically working and doing things. It's what gets her, and she sees herself more productive. And not saying that I can't do that. I absolutely can. But it's just something that I'm currently into. And well, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. Yeah. But you with school and work, how does that work? Because for me, it's a lot of business and my part-time job here, but yours is school and job.
Yeah. Well, I feel like my day, I can say like 2 different days just because like I have like my school. For me, I like actually love my schedule. And, but sometimes I like, there's some weeks like today, I'm like really tired because it's like a Friday. But, for the most part, I really like my schedule and how I kind of plan it out. And I like them both. I have 2 jobs. So I like how both my jobs like are fine with the hours that I'm doing and like how many days I'm going in. So basically, I work just Friday to Monday, and then I have school Tuesday to Thursday. So a basic school schedule is just like I wake up, I usually, or sometimes have breakfast. I have prioritized having breakfast now, which is really good. And then so like I feel more awake. I noticed that like having breakfast is a big thing because I feel more awake and I'm more like focusing on the professor and what he's saying. And the one thing that I don't like that I did for my schedule this year is that I decided to have 8 a.m. classes for like the 3 days that I have classes. So I have to like wake up early, like basically almost every day. Cause then for work, I kind of start early except for Saturday and Sunday, I don't really start early, but I basically wake up, I have breakfast, I go to school. I tend to get there like a little early, and then I go to these like couches that are in the building that my class is in, and I like chill there for like 10 minutes, and I just go like on TikTok and just like kind of relax. And then like I go to class, I have class, and then this is for my Tuesday schedule, but then I have like a 4-hour gap in between my next class, and then I have another class from 2 to 3:30, and then that's it. And then afterwards, after that class, I eat, and then after like I'm done eating, I kind of like take my time with eating, because then I watch something. It's probably like 5-ish, and then I kind of study a little more, but I get like easily distracted, so it kind of takes me really long to study. Then I go to the gym, and then I sometimes sit at the gym because they have like places where you can sit, and I like work on stuff too. And then I go home. And one thing I noticed for myself, and maybe other people that in college want to do, I noticed that I do not like having back-to-back classes, because it's like I already like got all this information from one class, and it's like then I got to go to another class, because I realized that because I had done that the past 2 semesters, and I would have like a class like 10 minutes apart, or like just like a little bit apart. And I realized I don't like that, because I'm obtaining that information, and like my brain takes longer for its process. And another class is coming in, I got to process all that. So for all my classes, I have like a pretty big gap. Like I have a 4-hour gap in between those. So usually after like my stats class, I go to office hours, because it's right after, and then whatever like I didn't get that he explained, I just ask him, and then he clarifies it. And so and then like for Wednesdays, I have a 5-hour gap in between my 2 classes, but except Wednesdays my class ends at 6:30, which is like the only like kind of bad thing, because then it's so late. And then Thursdays is kind of similar. I have like a 1-hour gap in between. Only I have like, I actually have a 1 back-to-back class, which is Thursdays, but it's just a lab, and then going into my lecture, which isn't bad. So yeah.
You have a very busy schedule.
Yeah, I'm like trying to explain it as best as I can, but I like my school schedule though. Like a lot of students, I feel like, because a lot of college students like have class and then they have work right after, they're like super like tired, and like I feel like they're even more tired than like what I feel, and they feel like they can't like really process everything right. And they're like a study thing that I don't know if you've heard of, but a good way to process information for like school is right after your class is review your notes, or then like a few hours later review it again, and it helps stick to it. It helps your brain stick to the information rather than you having the class and then going like a day and then reviewing it the next day. It's kind of like not really as fresh as it was. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard something similar, because like you said, someone who's going to school, it's not just going to school. You also have like, again, you gotta
manage to balance things,
because this is where it comes tricky, because a lot of people think, oh, why don't you just go to school? Well, there are things that you need as a human that requires to use money. So you need to work.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets a full ride. So
yeah. I forgot to say about my work. Oh, well, for work, okay, then for me, I work 2 jobs, like today, Friday. Today's like kind of like a really long day for me. I started at 6:30 at my job, but I have really like honestly really chill jobs, so I really like it. One of my jobs, it's at a nursing home. I'm front desk, so I'm honestly not really doing much. I'm able to do my homework there, so it's like they're all like really nice, and they're really like flexible with my hours. And sometimes my hours change because like I don't want to have work that day, because I just want to like study because I have like a test or something. They're totally fine with it, which I really like about that job. And so I work like 6:30, and then I ended like at 3, and then I come here, and then I start my other job at 6 to 10, and then I go home. And then I only work my other job Friday and Monday, just because those are the only 2 days that I wanted to like work for that long. And then Saturday and Sunday is when I just work one job. And it's honestly fine, because on the weekends there's like nobody there, so like I'm literally just doing homework then, or like watching something, because that's when I actually like do like nothing, but they just need someone to be there because of like public health, like they require someone to be there. But but then another thing why I guess some people wouldn't want that type of schedule is because some people would want the weekends off and they would want to be able to go out. But like for me, as you kind of mentioned, you like social life, I feel like I don't really have too much of a social life, just because for me, for some reason, it's like now harder for me to like make friends, but at the same time it's like I'm not trying to make friends, but it's like not really a priority for me in a way. For me now, a priority is like school. Like I really want to be on top of it, just because like a lot of friends, like now all my friends have like are like leaving to college, so it's like our friendship is still going to be there, but it's going to be like a lot more harder. And then for me in a way, to be able to like make new friendships with people that I don't know, it's like I don't know what their like intentions are. Like a lot of people are like very like different in a way like now these days, so I feel like I wouldn't want to open up to them too much, like in a way, because like those friends I've had for like years, but it's like now they're moving. And oh my god, today was my friend went to Santa Cruz today. I know I didn't say bye to her.
It's part of growing up, you know. And like you mentioned, a lot of, I mean, for me, is the same thing. If I have to work on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'll be working on a Saturday and a Sunday. But balancing school, work, social life, and yourself is something very complicated at times, because if you spend too much on having fun, you can miss areas that really need your attention. And if you're just working, you can miss a lot of opportunities to build long-lasting friendships as well. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is to know that the path you take, there's no right or wrong path. There's just your drive and desire to succeed. And that also means maybe turning right and it was to turn left. But it's okay. And know that everyone's kind of going through the same thing, especially in your early like after post high school and during college and post college. It's just an area where you're figuring yourself out. Yeah.
And everyone's just trying to figure themselves out. So
yeah, and just not judging on, for example, for me, it's, oh, if someone's going to college, great, good for you. I mean, keep going. I know it's not easy. Finish it. Like it's something you're passionate about. I don't take it as like, oh, not going to college is way better. No, it was my choice. It was what worked for me. Do I regret my decision? Absolutely not. It's the best decision I took. And you know, going to college for you is probably the best decision you took. So ultimately that's kind of our message for the show, is saying, hey, whatever you choose, it's okay. Yeah. And know that you are not a failure for choosing one thing or the other.
Yeah. And also that not, if something works for someone, it might not work for you.
Exactly.
Even if you think so. As we mentioned, just try new things. Put yourself out there, get yourself internships to just see what it's like.
Yeah, and it's really, getting out of that comfort zone can be very scary, nerve-wracking, but it brings a lot of growth for you. I mean, even talking on Tay has always been very nerve-wracking for me every single time, but the more I'm here, the more I learn. Yeah. And it's something that I'm grateful for. Tay has definitely allowed me and given me growth in many ways in my professional career and also in my personal growth, right? It's getting myself out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have a minute left, and we just want to emphasize that if you want to go to college, that's totally fine. It might be the right fit for you, but don't feel bad just because society says not going to college, you're going to be nothing. You will be something as long as you make it something. You find your passion and you find your drive.
Yeah, and definitely networking. It's
that's like, the thing.
If build strong relationships with people that you meet. That way, at some point in your life, you might need their support. And so if you have build that network, it's easier for you to achieve things, or it's quicker for you to achieve things than someone who hasn't networked as much. So definitely network in the field that you're in, and sometimes in other areas as well. It's something that a big tip for everyone out there.
Okay, guys, we are wrapping up on today's show. Thank you, Santi.